Hello boys and girls, welcome in another installment of Little Modular. Today I have this beautiful combination of Grandpa Granular sampler and its extension SPA, forming together an incredibly deep combo, which is fun and looks awesome. I mean, take a look at this wooden panel. It's just so odd and it oozes with originality. I mean, seriously. It looks absolutely crazy and acts in the same way. So, as you can hear already, it's a lo-fi thing. So, no high fidelity sounds in this thing, as the case is with most of Granular samplers. This is the dirty one, the one you love. But let's get back to the basics. So, as I mentioned before, this is a Granular sampler. So, you are having two samples right here, sample A and sample B. You can trigger those samples manually. As you can hear, they play but not simultaneously, which is nice. For example, for the type of open and closed hats and some different combinations. You can also trigger those samples via the trick inputs that are located just below the trigger buttons right there. And with those knobs right here, you can change different parameters depending on which page you are located on. And this depends on this button right here. You press it, and as you can see, the LED above changes its color. And this helps you to see on which page you are currently operating. On the red page, the upper knob is responsible for setting the sample rate. So you can hear. The lower knob sets the depth of digital distortion that's called crush here. So we can hear it. Okay. The next page, it's called the grain page. On this page, you set the grain size with the upper switch. Okay. Okay, maybe I just go back to the red one and set it up so you can hear it nicely without the crash. Okay, let's go to the green one. With the green one, as you can hear, okay, here is the grain. And grain shift, so we can shift the grain with the lower one and change the size of it with the upper one. Okay. Now the next page is a blue page. This one is an easy one. It's AR, simple attack and release envelope. So the upper knob is for setting the attack. Okay. Fast or gradual. Okay. Or a short release. Simple and easy. Next page is a white page. The white page is also an easy one. You set a sample start and sample end with those. So just decide when the sample starts actually. Okay. The next page is a red page. So we are coming back to the same page we have started with. Now, the really cool thing about these pages is that you can CV control them. Let's say I have an LFO here that I plug into the CV in right there, and right now I need to assign which parameter is going to be modulated by this signal, and the way I do it is quite simple. You just press the function button, the one in the middle here, marked with the red overlay, okay, and just move the parameter that you want to automate. In this case is the sample rate. Okay, and just move this. Oh, you can hear it right now. One thing with the knobs right here, these are not encoders, so sometimes they do not pick up the value from the previous mode, and you have to, turn it left or right a little bit so it picks up on the values, like in this instance. But you can hear clearly how the LFO works on the knobs. And one more word on the modulation input. Whatever signal you stick in here, it's going to add to the value set by the knob relatively. So you also have to watch where the value is. You can hear right now it's a little bit deeper. See? Okay. You can also switch the samples with those buttons right here. Okay. And you can do some various things depending on the combination of buttons pressed with the function button. For example, if you would like to activate the loop of the sample, you would press the function and the page button. If you would like to activate the grain sync, which means that the grain is activated whenever the CV input receives a trigger input, you would press function plus the page up. If you would like to save the preset, you'd press function plus the down page. Now, what is preset? Preset means all the settings for both A and B samples stored in one slot. And you have 35 of these. So you can switch between them by holding the page button and then pressing either page up or page down. Now, the concept of this module is expanded quite heavily by adding the second module, the SPA extension, which gives you a separate control over grain size and grain speed right here. Those two knobs have also their separate CV inputs. As well, you get the grain sync mentioned before with the trigger right here. And another two knobs below are meant to use as the controls for attack and release controls, or start and end of the sample. And you control which of these functions is controlled by those two knobs by this tiny switch right here. If it's in the upper position, those knobs serve as a start and end. And if it's in the lower position, they serve as attack and release. Of course, they both have their CV inputs, and above these you get an extra CV input which lets you independently modulate the crash parameter. Okay, now you gotta be careful with because sometimes when you won't hear anything, probably it's the envelope responsible for that. So just switch to the blue page and mess around with the settings. As you can hear right now, some really funky digital noisy stuff. Yeah, I mean, that's what I call lo-fi, okay? That's really lo-fi. For exploring all the glitches and the inner structure of samples. I mean, it's so much fun, It looks a bit confusing at the beginning, but I mean, come on, if you remember your last name and you know how to make a coffee, you will grasp the concept of this little system right there. It takes about 15 minutes with the manual and just messing around, and it's really intuitive. It's deep, it's fun, it looks incredibly nice, and it's unique, seriously. It's easy to control, which is not always the case with some samplers, like for example Phonogene, which I also have, and which can be at times hard to tame. This one is more, controllable, and at the same time it allows you to raise a sonic hell within minutes. As for storing the samples on the card, you need to store them in an appropriate format and name them accordingly, but you will find the instructions how to do it on the Bastl site. Each micro SD card holds 35 samples. Name them, put them in, and have fun. like I'm having right now. Sorry guys, have to go now, because this patch sounds really nice and I'm about to record it and to develop it into something epic. Bye bye. I see you next month with another great modules.